Hi guys, today we have a great game between Wesley So and Shakhriyar Mamedyarov playing in Superb Chess class Romania on 5th May. So, playing yesterday. Wesley So had white pieces and he started with d4, knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to c3, bishop to b4, e3, castle kingside, bishop to d3, d5 by Mamedyarov, c takes d5, e takes d5, a3, challenge that bishop, he goes to d6, and we have a queen to c2, h6, and both players are entering one of the most complex structure. So after this move a6, we have a knight to e2, rook to e8, castle kingside, and now b6 from Mamedyarov, b4. So is prepared quite well, while as Mamedyarov was already taking time on the clock. So next move is knight from b to d7, knight to f4, bishop take that knight on f4, e takes f4, and after the game Wesley So say that he was very surprised when he took that knight, and he think that he was better from this position. So c5, next move was c5, d takes c5, b takes c5, and rook to d1. White needs to aim that enemy hanging pawns, and this rook move is good. For that reason we have a b7, knight a4, c4, and this is not an easy decision to make, as Mamedyarov now risks to having his bishop locked behind these two pawns forever, you know. And next move from Wesley So, he removed that bishop from that attacking square and go to f5, a5. With this move he tried to swap his isolated pawn, and it's interesting to know that Engine loved black after this move, but this last move apparently isn't so good, and after this move So managed to bring the situation under control. His next move bishop to e3, a takes b4, a takes b4, queen to e7, and he absolutely controlled it, this e line. Rook from a to b1, supporting that pawn, because that queen also aiming that pawn, and he supported the rook. g6, challenging that bishop, and bishop took that d7 knight. It's more or less forced, but this was also a good move. He replies with a knight takes d7, knight to c3, knight to f6, bishop to d4, and with this move Wesley So block that center and block this bishop for the rest of the game. Knight to h5, attacking that lonely pawn pawn on f4, and Wesley So defend that with the queen. f6. After this is not a good move. Better was queen to h4, looking for some activity with the queen, and after g3, queen to h3, rook to e1, knight to g4, white we definitely need to be more careful and resourceful if we want to win. Instead of this move, we had f6, and Wesley So after game he said that was not good move, too passive, because he just felt the Mamedyarov playing only for draw. So he replied with h3, knight to g7, bishop to c5, attack the queen, and queen remove from that square to f7. Knight to b5 with the idea to fork queen, rook, and that lonely bishop. So he must defend that. He defend with a knight to f5, and with that move he blocked that idea. And if you think in this position kicking that knight is a good choice, it isn't, because of this this variation. So you think because of this variation, you don't move this knight, you play d4, and after you eating this knight is absolute disaster, because it will bring you into the force mate in 7. And the first move is queen to d5 with a straight idea to mate on g2. After f3, queen takes f3, queen to h2. You now play rook to a1, and you force that queen to move from that second rank. So you can block with a d2, but again you took that rook, and after some computer moves you play d1, rook to d1, take, check, king go to f2, and this is mate. That's why you never play this d4 move, because it's completely disaster. So we don't have that g4 move. We have a knight to d4, and he played queen d7 because he avoid exchanging the knights. He avoid this variation because he felt the white have dominating bishop in this position, and he will bring his position more trouble. So he played d7, rook to e1, king f7. We have exchanging the rooks, rook takes, and rook to a1 with the idea to put the rook maybe into square to a7 and maybe forking that queen. Rook to a8 from Mamedyarov, and So play rook to e1. Rook to 8, and we have exchanging that rooks. Knight takes f5, g takes f5, bishop to b4, and So remained in full control and can't bother the opponent on the both flanks. But with the correct play, black should be should survive in this position, but only with the perfect defense. Bishop to c6, f3, we have h5, queen to f2, queen to f8, queen from f2 to b2, and with this move he supported passed pawn and also aiming the enemy f6 pawn. And Mamedyarov responds with the queen to b8, but better move in this position was queen to d6. We have this move and queen to d2 from Wesley So, and better this position was to capture. That was the best choice in this situation because it was free pawn. But instead of that, we have queen to d2, king to the g6, queen to e3, queen to f2, and we have a lot of shuffling from this position. Queen to f7, bishop to c3, bishop to d7, king to h2. So he's shuffling his pieces left and right until he realizes his king can actually take part of the event. So we have now queen to d6, king to g3, toward the weaknesses. King to g6, king to h4, bishop to b5, queen to d4, aiming that f6 pawn again, and bishop to d7, queen to d2, bishop to c6, bishop to d4, bishop to d7, g3, bishop to e8, queen to d2, again aiming that lonely pawn of f6, queen to c6. It's a losing mistake. He could play a bishop to b5, but he played queen to c6 and let white queen to infiltrate in the position with the move queen to a3. He immediately realized that and tried to maybe exchange a queen, but Wesley So refused. Queen to a3, queen to d7, and now starting to march this passed pawn. After queen takes that pawn, Mamedyarov, not waiting for So next idea, he resigned from this position because he understood that Wesley So had a force mate in 7. Sorry for that. He realized that he have a force mate in 7, and this is that line. And this is that line, this force mate, and after this move queen takes b5, Mamedyarov realized that and immediately resigned again. And that is all from this game. See you next time.